What's up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much to everyone who wished me well. It's been a really rough 2 weeks, you guys. I was away working in San Jose when I found out that my grandfather had passed away, which was so devastating because we were supposed to visit him later on in the year. And then a couple days after that, my mother-in-law on my sister's side had really rough complications from a surgery that she went through, and so she's been unconscious, you know, for over a week now since then. And then I decided to leave my relationship because it wasn't making me happy, and it hadn't made me happy for a really long time. And I decided, you know what, with all this stuff reminding me how short life is, I have to make the decision to only focus on things that make me happy. And right now, thankfully, that is seeming to be like the best decision I could have made for myself in this moment. So with all of that aside, again, thank you to everyone who reached out. Let's jump into a recap of what went down on Teen Mom 2 Season 9, Episode 14. So we kicked off with Jo and V in their home kitchen, laughing about how Chris Lopez, the baby daddy that Kail had brought with her to be her champion on her side in the whole child support situation, had actually been on their side the entire time they were discussing it. I was actually pleasantly surprised to learn that in the midst of all of this, even with like her ally kind of turning against her, so to speak, Kail still did end up inviting Jo and V over to her house to celebrate Isaac's birthday. And back at her home, she also admitted fault for not stopping the child support payments when she should have. Meanwhile, in Florida, Brianna and her friend Shirley go out for hibachi and talk about how Lewis's cringe-tastic like moment with Stella went. I recapped that until everything went down. Like, I was so ready to film that. It was crazy watching that scene go down in the park. And then they move on to the topic of Devon's ambivalent parenting and how that's been affecting their daughter Nova, like, you know, very negatively. She's blaming herself for his absence in her life. And then the topic then moves on to her prospective third baby daddy's upcoming birthday. Brianna's like, I'm gonna go fly up to New York to visit him. I'm gonna throw him a surprise party and everything. And it's just so amazing to see how this single mom with no help is able to take yet another trip away from home with her girls. I think this is her third trip away, and it's ironically the most out of any of these girls. Now, there's nothing wrong with being away from your kids for a little bit here and there, but when you're claiming that you do everything absolutely yourself with no help, you know, it's a little bit funny to think about. Now, Leah goes to visit her sister and is still lying about not living with her boyfriend, Jason. Like, her daughters had been snitching on her for 2 weeks straight, and she is still holding steadfast onto this lie. So, the weather seemed decent while they were over there, but for some reason, while she's talking to Victoria, she's like, wow, the weather's looking pretty bad. We're gonna have to stay at Jason's. We're not gonna be able to make it back home. I was like, what's this girl talking about, this weirdo? What would she do if she didn't have a boyfriend? I know she wouldn't stay at her sister's house probably. She probably would have just hightailed it back home. It's just a little laughable there. She then hops in her car to head over to the gynecologist because her current birth control hasn't been working out for her. It stopped working a while ago. She ran out, and she's like, I've been using Plan B as needed. And it's like, sis, that is not birth control. Like, I kind of cringed a little bit when she mentioned that, because I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to take Plan B more than a certain amount of times in your life. So it's kind of nerve-wracking to imagine how often this woman has been using it as birth control. Now, Chelsea and her two could go to the barbershop with her entire family, and she talks about how she reached out to an apparel company to collaborate on a capsule collection. I'm happy to see that she actually has interests outside of being a wife and mother. Like, again, I think it's so freaking important for women to have things that they're passionate about outside of their kids and their husbands. Listen, kids, 100% of kids grow up, God willing, right? And like something like 50% of marriages end in divorce. So if you don't have an identity outside of these two things, I don't like it. It's hard to compute for me. I don't understand, cannot relate. So again, I'm happy to see that she's interested in doing something outside of, you know, these two roles. In an unlikely turn of events, Barbara takes Janelle over to Atlanta to get away from the social media drama. Guys, I love how Janelle, as they're like driving to their Airbnb, is like, oh my God, this trip is like the longest time I've been away from David. And she doesn't even like this is the longest she's been away from David, not the longest longest that she's been away from her like 1-year-old daughter. And in fact, when she's talking about the separation anxiety from like David, she doesn't even mention her daughter at all. She's like, yo, this is like the longest I've been away from David. Like, oh my God, like he's texting me, don't like flirt with any other guys, haha. But she doesn't mention like her infant or anything like that. It's like Janelle's lack of maternal instincts is just insane. In West Virginia, Leah and Jason go to the doctor so that she can get an IUD, but the very unimpressed doctor tells Leah she can't get an IUD due to her bicornuate uterus, which is a uterus that's shaped like a heart with 2 cavities instead of 1. And he seems like overall extremely irritated with her, as if he had told her in advance like some other time before. But yet here she showed up again just to like get a scene with MTV. Like the whole thing was extremely awkward to me. Now they go back to Jason's kitchen and talk about how bummed out they are that she can't get the IUD, and she ultimately decides that she's going to go for the NuvaRing in this extended PSA about birth control. Jo and V arrive at Kail's house, and Jo talks about how his hand has never recovered from holding up Kail's foot as she was delivering their son Isaac 9 years ago to the day. He is so stinking funny. Becky also makes like a comment about how Isaac is like all Kail, and then Kail like vehemently disagrees. She's like, no, like Isaac 100% looks like Jo but with blonde hair. And I was like, sis, that baby is all you. You spit him out. What are you talking about? He's got her eyes, he's got her dimples and everything. I think he's got her nose as well. Like, he does not look like Jo to me anyway. What do you guys think about that? Now in Atlanta, for some reason, despite being a wino, Barbara has no clue how to uncork a bottle of wine. How funny is that? She begs for some box wine, but that doesn't happen because Janelle ultimately ends up being able to get the classy stuff flowing from the bottle for them. They hop on IG Live really drunk for a couple of hours, and they start doing like one of those things where Brittany joins their live, and for some reason, like out of nowhere, unprompted or anything like that, they're talking about the reunion, and Barbara's like, oh, like we'll all get lit and kill Kail. It was like, oh, she just learned some slang or something and she was excited to use it, but used it improperly. Like, I don't know, it was just so like ugh to me. But I definitely did not think that she was legitimately threatening Kail. Like, this woman is pushing 70. She's not threatening Kail. Janelle's producer Kristen calls Janelle and Barbara to tell them to apologize for the threat, and Barbara ultimately hops back on and says that she was just joking and like can't really understand how anybody would think she was serious. Kristen then goes over to Kail's house in Delaware to talk about the IG Live, and Kail says that she's not losing sleep over any of it, and that she doesn't want to be part of a franchise that condones this sort of behavior, which is funny to me because Kail, you know, for years was beating her ex-husband, and Kail for years has been cheating on every partner she's ever had. So I don't know what pristine reputation she wants to be associated with, because she definitely herself is not carrying one, you know. Like, it was very, very weird. I'm pretty sure the stuff that Kail has done is leaps and bounds worse than Barbara just joking about quote unquote killing her on Instagram Live, which obviously was not like an actual threat or anything like that. And if Kail legitimately perceived it as a threat, she would have acted as such. She's just reclined on her little porch chair talking about how she doesn't lose sleep over it. If someone threatens to kill you, you're gonna lose sleep over it. And on top of that, I don't know why she roped the Dejesus family into it. She's like, I don't want to be associated with the Evanses or the Dejesus family. And it's like, okay, the Evanses, I could see why with that thing. Like, it makes sense for you to like feign all of that outrage. But like with Brittany and them, Brittany was just sitting there when Barbara said it. She didn't really do anything. She didn't say anything. And like, I didn't get it. It's just her, as usual, still having a stick up her ass about Brianna. So now, speaking of Brianna, she goes out to dinner with her man. By the way, her interactions with her man versus her fake relationship with Javi, like, the difference between them is night and day. You can tell she's legitimately into this relationship, whereas with Javi, she looked like she was irritated by her baby brother at all times. So anyway, they go out to dinner, and she tells him that it's her first real relationship, which is sad considering she's like 24 years years old with 2 kids by 2 different men. Like, this is your first real relationship, and yet here you've been all these years raw dogging all these random people, you know, to the point where you've got children by them. Like, sis, reevaluate your life. Anyway, her boyfriend John asks her what to look out for when meeting her mom for the first time, because Brianna really wants to introduce him, and Brianna actually neglects to tell him that Roxanne may or may not throw a vase or a shoe at him. Now, in the final scene of the episode, Barbara and Janelle are sitting around in their Airbnb and talking about how people are way too sensitive these days, and they suggest that Kail's outrage over the Instagram live situation is not like that she feels threatened or anything like that. They're just thinking that she feels jealous because Janelle has her mom who she can go out with and have a good time. Janelle's like, yeah, like, I think she's jealous because here we are having a good time, like, away together, and she doesn't even have any family. Her family doesn't want anything to do with her because of the type of person that she is. And it was like, ooh, that might have been a little bit too far, sis. Like, I kind of feel a little like, about that situation. They also talk about how Kail has been, like, basically begging for her own show for a long time now, which she has, and how this is probably her trying to pick people off or trying to, like, give herself her own new platform or something like that. And they just continue to roast her. But anyway, that wraps up what went down on Teen Mom 2 Season 9, Episode 14. But as usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say about everything. So please make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we'll chat. You can also like this video, subscribe for more, feel free to share it with your friends as well, and follow me across social media where I absolutely love chatting with you. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.